Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meira K Show, and this time I am unfortunately no longer alone.
That's an intro. Unfortunately, I'm with Dave Rubin. You know, I traveled 10,000 miles to get here, but thank you.
You're very welcome.
It's nice to see you too.
Thank you. That's what I get told all the time. Anyway, we are here today to do something a little bit different. We'll be running through all the headlines of our news cycle here in Israel, and me and Dave will be adding our thoughts. Are you guys ready? Let's go. Thousands of Gazans storm aid distribution center. Dave, hit me. What do you think about the aid?
Well, I don't know that any other country in the history of the world would be asked to feed the very people that are holding their hostages and killed thousands of them and would love to kill millions more. But I suppose in the bizarre world that we live in, getting some aid to some of the people is probably good, and having it not go to Hamas is probably good. So I guess that would be 50-50.
Well, I think...
What do you think?
What do I think? I always think something, first of all, but I think that the aid right now is really interesting. As you all know, I'm massively anti-aid, and I've said that, but specifically the last week, they've actually done something that is making the aid work in the best way that it could. Why am I against aid? Because aid should not be sent to our enemies, okay? Number one, don't feed the people who are trying to kill you, but if we do have to feed them for international pressures, etc., at least do it in a way that destabilizes Hamas. It's been 600 days. They haven't managed to do it up until this point, but this week they have started. And how do we know that? Because of all the headlines. Hamas are coming after us, saying that we're killing everybody going to the aid centers because they're hoping, A, that the international world will stop us, and B, that the people in Gaza won't go to the Israeli-American aid, and that way they can keep the stronghold. Not going to work. Let's go next one.
The useful idiots are useful and idiots.
Oh, yes, they are. Netanyahu and his trial at the moment. Yes. What do you think?
Well, as I understand it, his wife likes ice cream, and then maybe he was given a plush toy by someone 30 years ago. It's completely absurd. It's completely absurd, even if there was more there. Relative to the existential crisis that this country's in, the idea that they are dragging this man into trial every day right now is just absolutely absurd, and I hope more people understand the level of absurdity.
I mean, even Marco Rubio said this, right? Netanyahu was in an important conversation with Marco Rubio about the security of the country, and he says, I'm sorry, I have to go because I'm getting cross-examined. And Marco Rubio was like, are you serious? Is that a joke? But no, it's not a joke. But what is a joke is how Netanyahu is dealing with this, because we have another headline coming up which talks about the fact that they're penalizing him for giving a Bugs Bunny toy to his kid. Okay, literally one of the things on trial right now.
I thought it was just a plush.
No, like
Plushy.
legit rubbish. But he has said during his trial 1,788 times, okay, this is something the prosecutors came up after him and said, 1,780 times, I don't remember, because Netanyahu is taking the mickey out of everybody. He's just basically saying, look, I've had enough. This trial is bogus. I don't remember. I don't know if I got a plush toy in 1996 for my son or if I didn't. It's irrelevant. Can we please move on? So whilst the whole world is coming after this and saying things like, okay, he can't remember, he's lying. Actually, he's just saying it's irrelevant, not important, not significant for the security of the country.
I can't remember all the toys that my kids who were 2-year-olds were given 3 months ago by aunts and uncles and everything else. So yeah.
Legit. Okay, let's go. Haredi conscription spells turmoil for Netanyahu's coalition. What do you think?
Look, as a general rule, well, first of all, I would say it's not for me as an outsider to say how Israel should manage its internal affairs, right? I have opinions on a lot of the external stuff. But should more people be serving in an army in a difficult time that you're in? The answer probably is yes. I understand the arguments against it, but actually I'd rather hear your opinion on it.
Well, I think what's interesting about this one specifically is the fact that we've been at war for 2 years, okay? And the importance of having people in the government and people in the army is so, like, it can't be understated. But what happens when you have a society that needs something, that really needs something? You have a group within the society, and that negates the war efforts. How do you deal with that, right? The Haredim, it's part of their integral belief. Like it, not like it, think that they should be doing something different, not the question right now. Actually, does there come a point where what they need is more important than the country's security? And I think we could all say no. But also, if this war is just going to drag out and attack the core belief of this group, where does the line lie? And I think that's something that the Haredim are saying. They're saying, look, you guys are attacking our morals, and we haven't said anything. I mean, we've said stuff, but we're trying to kind of stay out of the political drama that's caused by this. However, if you keep dragging this out, we're going to have to make a stand because you are pushing against the things that we're not going to cave on. And so everyone's turning it into kind of like, oh, the Haredim are trying to bring down the government, but it's not exactly like that.
Sure, but I guess the counter argument to that would be if you're going to vote for people who are going to send other people's soldiers into other people's children into harm's way, you should have some skin in the game on that.
Agreed 100%. But the question right now is there anything important enough for a country to bring down a government during a war? And I think this is something that people have kind of claimed about Netanyahu to no end. When the war started, he should have stepped down, right? However, bringing elections back into the country destabilizes the country. It's very complicated and is not always the right thing. So should we go to elections? Interestingly enough, 55% of Israelis believe that we should go to re-elections now. What do you think? Elections during a war or no?
Probably not right now. Look, you got to give Bibi a long leash when it comes to having to deal with the Biden administration. So you sort of have to reset it starting at Trump. And there does seem to be movement in the last couple months. There's a lot of craziness, but there does seem to be some movement in some positive ways. So I think you got to kind of just forget everything that happened before that, go from there, and also try to think like, okay, maybe you can bring in another government and maybe it can be more effective for some reason or another. But can anyone deal with the international pressure better than Netanyahu? That just seems kind of hard for me to believe.
Right. Well, I think this is kind of the duality that we often speak about on the show. Netanyahu needing to navigate big world politics, but also small politics. It could be that small level people in the Haredi part of the coalition could pull down Netanyahu. Forget Biden administration, forget Iran, right? Like the small nuanced details. And all of this is happening whilst Netanyahu is on trial dealing with plush toys. Very annoying.
I want a plush toy.
I'll get you one. Jerusalem man arrested as Iranian spy. What do you think about the spies in Israel at the moment?
I mean, I've heard a few of these stories, and I would say Israel should be less than tolerable to these people if it turns out to be true. I mean, there are enough external problems here that if you're going to have internal people that are going to do this, like you got to deal with it pretty quickly and get moving. I don't think that's rocket science.
100%. I think that the spy issue is something that we kind of like think about from like the Russians, like not nowadays, but Iran is coming hard after Israelis who they know need money. And interestingly enough, the thing that they are pushing the Israelis to do, guess what? Can you guess? Bring down Netanyahu's government. That's what they want.
You don't say.
That's what the Iranians want. And that obviously shows us that the Netanyahu's government is working. But still, regardless, we have to come after these people no matter what. Let's go. I can read this one.
Senator Lindsey Graham, I hope Greta can swim. So this ridiculous flotilla with this, I can't say on your show what I usually call her, this climate gal. You know, she's just become this haggard, troll-like creature who's moved on. You know, it's just one grift. The revolution is always the revolution. It's never about the issue. It's always about the revolution. She realized that her climate revolution is over. So now she's on to her next revolution, which is the, you know, quote unquote, free Palestine revolution. And I guess apparently they've turned the boat back or so, like, who knows? But this, no one should care what this obviously manipulated girl with psychological problems says about literally anything.
You're stealing my Thunberg, Dave, right there. You're stealing my Thunberg. But I have to say about the Greta Godzilla who's trying to save Gaza, there is nothing more lefty nuts than seeing this girl on a ship with like 3 people. It's a small ship being like, to save Gaza. There's no aid, there's no military, there's nothing. And now I was thinking they're getting arrested. It's a PR war, 100%. It's just a stunt to put her again relevant.
Stunt.
But it's kind of hilarious. Honestly, I'd love to see her arrive in Gaza. I think most Israelis would at this point. She has become such a pain. Let's go.
UK joins France's initiative for recognition of a Palestinian state. Look, a Palestinian state never existed. It will never exist. I would say France might be a Palestinian state before Israel, and the UK might be as well. There'll certainly be Muslim nations before Israel becomes one. But look, this is just like, it's catnip by Macron and Starmer to stop the impending doom of their countries. And they think that they can basically throw the Jews in Israel under the bus so that they can, you know, have a little bit more runway before the Islamists take over there. And so what? What are you going to recognize? What are you recognizing? You're recognizing Gaza and Judea and Samaria, which are not even connected. So you're recognizing a 3-state solution. It was all nonsense from the beginning. The Palestinians had many chances over the years. They weren't even called Palestinians at the time, but they had many chances over the years for a state. And all right, congratulations, UK, you've got a piece of paper. You know, the people of Bora Bora, which is French Polynesia, maybe they want their independence.
I was going to say, we could
get people of the British Virgin Islands. What are the British doing there? They might want their independence.
I was going to say we should just call Somaliland Palestine. Like,
Yeah,
they can have their Palestinian state.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in it. But what's interesting about this specifically is the fact that Israel's response to it is, okay, you want to give them a Palestinian state? We're going to recognize Judea and Samaria as our own. And I think, yeah, I mean, I have a bit of issues with this because I don't, one doesn't exist, Palestine doesn't exist, and Judea and Samaria should have always been ours. So I don't think you can even equalize these, but I think this is the correct mentality. You want to come after us and start to make up statements about what's right and what's wrong here in Israel, where we're going to do that right back. So
you know, I've been to Bora Bora, which is part of the French Polynesian Islands, and what happens there is that the natives, the best job you can get as a native there is to work at a hotel that is run by the French, and it's all French people with the big jobs, and the natives, natives of Bora Bora, basically have all the jobs cleaning the rooms and everything else. I wonder what would happen to the French if the natives there decided to start strapping on suicide bombs. Fortunately, their culture doesn't call for that, but the French might have different feelings about all this if they did.
It's unfortunate. The whole French situation is really sad, and honestly, like, Macron getting punched in the face by his wife, you know, like, he has enough stuff at home. He doesn't have to deal with Israel problems. That's my personal feeling. Okay, this one's actually really interesting because this was a statement made by an Arab MK, member of Knesset here in Israel. Gaza has won and Gaza will win. Arab MK's speech at Anti-War rally draws outrage. Now, why is this interesting? Because everybody, not everybody, the majority of people in the Israeli government are saying, get rid of this person. He is obviously a supporter of Gaza, a supporter of Hamas. However, free speech. What do you think? Should a person in an Israeli government, an Israeli representative, coming out and saying things like this, should they be penalized and removed from their position, or should they be allowed to say whatever they want?
He should be deported. Like, get serious about this or not. You can't have people in your country, particularly in your government, who exist only to destroy your country. That's just the sad truth. We would all like to have our principles in the most, vacuum sort of sense. And he can say whatever he wants, I suppose, but you certainly can't be in the government when doing it. And actually, if your existence is to destroy the state that you live in, there are probably some ways to make sure that someone like that doesn't have to live in the country. It's also ironic. I mean, the quote is Gaza has won and Gaza will win. Well, which is it? Have they won or will they win? That's one thing. But also, I'm sure this guy would say that there's a genocide in Gaza, and generally the victims of a genocide don't think they've won. So none of it, by basic sort of examination, it kind of runs pretty thin.
Well, what would you say to the people who say there needs to be people within Israel and within the government who can call the government out for things?
Well, of course, you can criticize the government for sure, but if your existence as a political party or as a member of parliament is to undermine the very foundation of the state, that's different than criticizing the government. You can criticize the government all day long, but if you exist to dismantle the state, and by the way, we have our own problem with that in America because we have several Congress people, I would say Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and AOC to some extent, they really want to dismantle the United States of America. That's a problem. This is, I would say, is a version of that, probably on steroids. Rockets fired from Syria for first time in a year. Israel holds Shara responsible.
I want to give you some context for this. Okay, so right now we have a seven-front war, Iran, Lebanon, etc. Now, there's a new mentality being taken, okay? There's this new government thing happening in Syria. We all know about it. Peace hopefully happening, etc. However, within Syria, there are many, many small terrorist groups. It was one of these small terrorist groups that fired at Israel. And Israel basically said, no, we're holding the Syrian government accountable. What do you think about that? Is that the correct way?
It probably is. I get it. It's really messy there. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in like the new birth of Syrian politics and all of the different jihadi groups there and everything else. No other country would tolerate one rocket flying into their territory. So whether the incoming Syrian government did it or not, let's say they didn't, but if they're basically in charge,
I think, this is a flip of how we've been doing things up until this point. We, as Israel, if we want to survive in the Middle East, we have to speak the language of the Middle East. Somebody from your family, your place does something to us, we are going to hold you accountable, and that would be true across all Middle Eastern societies. So I think it's a good thing. Okay. Do you hear about this? This is nuts.
Israeli protesters storm ruling Likud party headquarters in Tel Aviv, demand hostage release. I mean, so I didn't know about this one specifically, but I would say generally speaking, yes, everyone wants the hostages back. You're demanding it from people that aren't in the position to give if the Likud party was holding the hostages, that might be something you want to do. But as I can tell, as far as I can know, they're doing everything they can. And you have a group that is a genocidal jihadist organization not that interested in ending the war.
Right. Well, I think, again, this just comes back to the politicization of the hostages, which should never have happened, should never have been. But specifically what's interesting about this headline is you won't find it anywhere. Okay. It took me like 20 minutes to try and find this. They won't talk about the fact. And if you see the images, which we'll show you here, of what happened there, they literally came in ransacked. It kind of looked like January 6th. It was deranged what they did. And everybody's just being silent about it. Like, okay, it's okay. Anarchy is fine. It is not fine. It is not okay. You don't like a government policy. That's unfortunate. Go ahead, create more people who will vote for the people that you like, and hopefully that will win. You can't come after democracy in the name of democracy. There's a majority, and that is the Likud at the end of the day. And this kind of anarchy, we can do whatever we want in the name of the hostages thing that happens here in Israel is unacceptable.
Cosign. Cruz resides push to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terror group after Boulder attack. Yeah, I retweeted it and I complimented him on it. Of course, there is a reason that several of the Gulf states don't allow the Muslim Brotherhood to congregate there. They have exported, and we in the West have imported people who want to destroy our countries. I think we are finally learning, after the endless jihad that has taken over the streets of London and Paris and some of these other places. I mean, the streets of Paris are far more dangerous than the streets of Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, obviously. I think after having a guy from Egypt who was here illegally throw Molotov cocktails, including one on an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, yeah, I think it's time we can call these people what they are.
100%. And I think this is something we've been talking about on our trip quite a bit. This idea that, like, it's not just Israel, it's coming for the entire world. So if you can see the problem here in Israel, react to it accordingly in America. They're coming for Americans, they're coming for the West, and the West has to respond accordingly. So good job, Ted. Last big piece of news from this morning, the IDF has recovered the body of 2 hostages. What do you think?
No, well, it's incredible. These both happen to be dual citizens of America and Israel. So obviously, as an American, that has particular weight with me. Judy Lynn Weinstein and her husband, Gad Haggai from they got them in Khan Yunis, but what's Kibbutz Nir Oz. Look, it's incredible, it's amazing, it's wonderful, and it just shines more light on that there are still, it's not just living people there, which is unimaginably horrible. And I talked, obviously, as I know you have and everyone watching this, to people that survived and that were let out, but that they're holding bodies. It's the most like cynical, evil, psychotic thing imaginable, and hopefully some of their family will now get some closure with all this.
Amen, amen, and we hope for good news, and we're so thankful to the Shin Bet and the IDF for doing this. Okay, our final segment of the day, Meira reads a book.
Wow.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. You're
not going to burn it on camera, are you? That would
No. But we have a very unbiased review of the book today. Dave, any opinions?
This is a great book.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you. I've written 2 books, but this is my first book, and it holds a particular place in my heart because it was really, well, first off, I think when you're doing anything for the first time, you had like a certain attachment to it. But this was really, it was not only personal in that it was about my political evolution, it was about how I built my show, how I came to a lot of my conclusions. It had a lot to do with, we talked about my childhood a bit, and you're just evolving in my early career in stand-up and all these things. So it was a pleasure, right? It's political, but it's funny too. And the thing that people tell me about this more than anything else is that their own political journeys, mapped closely to this. And that's, I think, the mark of something good, when you can create something that someone could be like, oh, I see something in that that resonates with me. That's how I think good things spread.
I want to add that this book tells Dave's story, but I think a lot of people who are viewing this have also been on their own journey, right? As you said, it maps them out. It's this idea that your political world might not always fit what your moral code tells you. And at some point you might have to make a change. And if you're looking for a courageous voice who can teach you and train you how to do it and show you that it's actually right better on the other side. And if you were somebody who was anti-Israel and who has now changed and is here with us, this is the book for you. Dave, thank you for being here.
That was a much better outro than intro. The intro, I'm still not happy with, but the outro was all right.
You'll forgive me or forgive me. Thank you, Dave. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next time.